Hi, it is my favorite day of the week, and that is Wednesday. Wednesdays mean I get to have amazing conversations with really fascinating, interesting, smart people. And I am so excited to introduce today's guest. But before I do so, I, of course, want to thank our founder, our Pursuit 365 founder, Miss Shelley Lynn Hughes. Shelley, thank you again for trusting me these Talk Wednesdays. They are an absolute blast. I, of course, too, want to thank our amazing Talk Wednesday sponsor, Leanne Miles at the Clinton Wilkins Mortgage Team. I've learned that I need to slow down when I say that so I get it out of my mouth. So, Leanne, thank you so much to you and your team for your generous support of Talk Wednesdays. Okay, we have a phenomenal guest with us today. Bill Carpenter is the guest in the seat today, and Bill is coming to us from a place that's very special to me. He is coming to us from Langley, British Columbia, or more specifically, Walnut Grove, which when I moved to Langley, BC in 1990, I think there was a Max Milk, and that was about it in Walnut Grove. And needless to say, it has definitely boomed. And I was sharing with Bill, I was out there for the first time in many, many years and needed Google Maps to find my way around because there's been so much development. But Bill, thank you so much for being with us today. And I am so excited to learn more about you and to share with people what you are doing. Okay, so Bill has had a very, very interesting project on the go for how many years did you tell me, Bill? How many years have you been working on this?
About 25 years I've been working on this. And I really finished it up. Sorry, my wife has Alzheimer's, so I've been home taking care of her. And during COVID, it gave me the time to finish the book, which was on my bucket list. It's a labor of love, and I really wanted to get it completed. So I'm grateful that I've finally got it. I gave birth to it.
That's right. I was going to say, and Bill has spilled the beans that the labor of love, his amazing project that he's been working on. Can you imagine 25 years? That's passion at its finest. But he has birthed this amazing book, Awakening the Genie Within, a journey of self-discovery to fulfill human purpose and potential. And guys, I want to tell you that talking with Bill before we hit record, Bill said to me specifically, and I quote, he says, "I didn't write this book for me. I wrote this book to help people." And it gave me goosebumps. It absolutely gave me goosebumps. So, Bill, thank you for that. And I would love for you to give us where did the original idea for this book come from? Was there a occurrence in your life that spurred this, or what was the catalyst there in making you decide to put pen to paper?
In Vancouver many years ago, I owned a staffing business where I supplied temporary help and helped companies hire people. And I had a lot of large clients, and I had client focus groups every couple of months. And at one of those meetings, there was a unanimous agreement that one of the major problems facing organizations is trying to get people motivated to pursue the company's mission, vision, purpose, and objectives. So I took that on as a challenge to help them. And I discovered that it's a matter of the culture of the organization is critical, but also the personality of the individual and matching the two. So I got into that concept, and I started to learn that people are programmed to think and behave a certain way. By the time we're 6 years old, a lot of our programming is already done, and it's subconscious. And we continue that process throughout our lives. And we don't really realize why we think and behave the way we do. It becomes mindless. It becomes habitual. So I started to look at this in depth, and I realized that if we want to change, we have to understand how we've been programmed to think and behave. And once with that awareness, then we can choose to change our thinking and behavior. Now, the interesting thing is just becoming aware doesn't mean you're going to change. People get stuck in habits, and they don't want to change. It's like an animal born in captivity. If you suddenly release that animal to the wild, if it's been in the zoo too long, it can't adjust. It becomes institutionalized. Oh. And we're like that too. So sometimes we need help from other people to adjust. But I believe us humans are on the precipice of a major transition. We're either going to destroy ourselves, or we're going to break through and continue to thrive as a species. And I think that the solution to that is to become conscious of our programming and transcend it. And that's what my book's all about. It's about transcending our programming. And our cultures are nothing more than a collection of egos that manifest as a culture, a way of life of a group of people. And both of those influence us tremendously. It's like, I think of our ego as like a computer program, but the program thinks it's the mind, and it's not. It's just a program running on the computer. And egos are selfish. They're insatiable, and we go through life behaving a certain way without really thinking about it. So I've got tools in my book. There's a whole series of worksheets and handouts. The real power of my book is not reading the book, although it's informative and educational, but the real power comes from doing the self-work through the handouts and worksheets that are on my website. And they're all free to access and download and print. So, and those are there individually. It's great to do this stuff for relationships, before people get married, before people enter a partnership. And it's all based on values and whether the values are in alignment. And then I do the same thing with organizations to make sure the culture of the organization is consistent with the needs, values, and beliefs of the people. And most of the time it's not. Most cultures evolve at the whim of those in power and control, or those with the biggest egos. And the rest of us just suck it up and go along with the flow. And another characteristic is
sadly,
human beings have a fundamental need to be accepted, liked, fit in, to belong. And because of that, we tolerate dysfunctional cultural norms and rules instead of expressing our own individuality. And
either that, or I was going to say, or do you find too that do you find that there's the opposite end of the spectrum too, or you have the other that, you know, just wants to push back for the sake of pushing back? Because I know that's something I feel that I've encountered a lot, right? It's either that I'm just going to go and not make waves, or it's like I'm automatically going to challenge the hierarchy, or I'm going to. Okay.
Well, good for you. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And there are mavericks. There are people who don't accept the status quo. They want to change. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, organizations tend to lionize people who perpetuate the culture and the status quo, and they demonize people that dare to offer improvements and challenges and changes, even though those changes could benefit the organization. So, and I've witnessed that personally.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
And that's where too many leaders want to surround themselves with people that will agree with them, that will think like them, instead of surrounding ourselves with people that are different from us to help us see where our caveats are, where our shortcomings are, to help round out the group as a whole. And that's why I think it's so fantastic that there's more and more people like you that
Yeah.
are stepping up and exposing this and challenging this to hopefully get people to open their minds and think differently and see things differently. Because the more these leaders, surround themselves like that, everything just stays one dimensional, and they're actually harming the business in so many ways. Because if
Yes.
you could get those different perspectives, it's amazing then what can soar. But like you said earlier, that's where the ego comes in, and it's getting past and beyond
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. And a lot of leaders like to clone themselves. And there's no progress in that. Um, the the classic example. Can I give you a quick example? The classic example
Absolutely,
of
I would love that.
yeah, the classic example of people refusing to change was the Swiss watch industry. They dominated the world of watchmaking. I think back in the 1970s, 80s, they had 90% market share, and within a few years, their share plummeted to 10%. And there of the 65,000 watchmaking people in Switzerland, 50,000 of them lost their jobs. And do you know why they lost their jobs? Because of the quartz movement watch. And guess who invented the quartz movement watch? The Swiss. And they wouldn't accept it as a watch because it didn't have a mainspring, it didn't have jeweled bearings, it didn't tick, it didn't look like a clock, it didn't sound like a watch. So they dismissed it as a toy. And I believe it was Seiko of Japan and Texas Instruments saw it at the World Watch Congress. They picked up on it, and they put 50,000 Swiss people out of work because of the refusal of their leaders to change and accept what they had invented themselves. That's probably one of the biggest, but there's dozens of examples like that where people just refuse to change and perpetuate the status quo. So I like that example because it's one of the bigger ones. So just wanted to share that quickly. But
Yeah. And
go ahead.
no, go ahead. Keep going. Keep going, Bill. You're on a good roll. I like it.
Well, human behavior is not as complex as we might think it is. I think it was Max Planck that said when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's what my book is all about. It's getting people to look at themselves and others through a different lens. Instead of the programming that we basically perceive the world through the lens of our programming. And that distorts reality. And this is a fact, what I'm going to share with you now. Other than natural causes, different beliefs over religion, politics, morals, sexual orientation are the biggest cause of human pain and suffering and death in the world. And you look at people who fight over religion. Look at what Christianity did to the Aboriginal people. We're still paying the price for reconciliation. When you impose your beliefs on other people, it causes division, pain, and suffering. One of the things I talk about in my book in the very first chapter is the abortion controversy. And I was advised by my editor not to include it because it's such a political and religious football. That's exactly what I wanted. I want to show how our programming causes extreme division between us. And we impose our values on other people. My book doesn't take a position, by the way, one way or the other. I try not to take a position on politics or religion, but I do express my views. And I don't expect people to to agree with me. In fact, I welcome their disagreement because it's through that we grow. And
correct.
I feel very passionate about this. I've spent 25 years researching this stuff. And I have a daughter with Down syndrome and a wife who's got Alzheimer's, and I've learned so much from them. And, it's life's a journey. We're all on this journey together, and we need to help each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Go ahead. I think there's
No,
three purposes.
and
Three
what are the
purposes.
three? What are the three?
Well, the first one is to enjoy the trip as much as possible. We're only on this short earth for a short visit, and we should enjoy it to the utmost without harming other people. And like some religions say, oh, you should deprive yourself of certain physical, mental, and spiritual because it's considered immoral or whatever. I don't agree with that. If you're not harming anyone else, you should experience life to the fullest, mind, body, and spirit. The second thing is we should help people as much as we are able to. Helping other people. We're all on this journey together, and we should help each other. And that's why I like Shelley Lynn Hughes, and that's what drew me to her, because that's exactly what she stands for. And I've spoken with her a number of times, and her and I are on the same page. So, and the third thing is, the third purpose of life is to transcend our programming and connect with our spirit or our true inner essence, which is who we are at a deep level. There's different labels people put on that. It's your inner essence, your spirit. Some people call it God. It doesn't matter what label you put on it, but it's it's through that essence or that inner spirit that we're all interconnected and interdependent. And
Yes.
so,
And you
go
hit the
ahead.
nail on the head by saying it doesn't matter what you choose to call it at all. And that's where everybody has their right to their own belief systems and whatever it is that they connect to that make them a better human, right? And that's really what I think I'm hearing from you is that you want people to be happier. You want people to bring their best self and put their best self forward. And the more we can, uplift one another and have respect for people, right? Because I don't want a world where everybody thinks and agrees with me. I don't want our world would be very lopsided if everybody just said yes, yes, yes. Oh, yeah. No, there's never any growth or evolution if nobody ever challenges any status quo. But the key is it doesn't have to be divisive. And it doesn't have to be, okay, well, now, I can't speak to you. It's interesting. I was just in BC working with friends on their vineyard. And, this husband and wife, she is a vegetarian, who will not kill a spider. And her husband's a hunter fisherman. And, it doesn't mean, they can't have a relationship with one another. They have a respect for one another and where each one stands, and they still manage to cohabitate and live happily. So I think that
I think beliefs are really important. The definition of a belief is something that you hold to be true, but you don't necessarily require proof. It's like a child's belief in Santa Claus. They don't need to prove it; they just believe it, and you're not going to gain anything by convincing the child that Santa Claus doesn't exist. I mean, what's the point of that? So, I don't try to tell people that their beliefs are wrong, but I don't impose my beliefs on them, and I don't expect them to impose their beliefs on me. I allow them to be who they want to be, and focus. By the way, human beings are 99.1% identical in their DNA. It's less than 1% that makes you a woman and me a man, or you a different ethnicities, different physical attributes. And this is a scientific fact. You can check it out. It's our human DNA is 90. Human DNA that is composed of something like 70 billion chemical bases, and 99.1% of them are identical in all humans. So we have far more in common than what makes us different. And in the latter years of my life, I've gained a whole new appreciation for women. And I think women have been treated badly. We live in a society that's dominated by power and control. And whether it's the church, politics, business, it's been dominated by men. And I think that's completely wrong. Women bring a whole new dimension of beauty and insight that men don't have. Like, a man can never understand what it's like to deliver a baby. We can intellectualize it. We can never experience what a woman does. And I just feel that women have not, well, if you, because we're all interconnected, if you harm a woman, you're harming yourself. You know, I truly believe that. And I really dislike these cultures who demean and put women down and treat them like lesser human beings. And I think that's got to change. Um,
Well,
I'm not
and
going to.
no human should belittle or harm
Mhm.
anyone, really, right? No matter what. And that happens across the board. And there's where, again, I'm a firm believer in the fact that hurt people hurt. And I think there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. And that's where I think work like yours, where you're
Mhm.
showing people that there is another way to do it. But the thing is we're going to come back to the beginning, where it's up to you, or it's up to me to do the
Yes,
work, right? It's not enough to just,
absolutely.
and this is I think the problem with social media these days. It's just read my post, take my course, and you'll be
Yeah.
magically transformed. And that's not
No, it
not
doesn't.
the case at all.
It's like
We didn't
I
get this
quote
way
the,
overnight.
yeah,
Yeah.
I quote the Wizard of Oz because the characters in the Wizard of Oz went to the wizard to solve their problems. But when they realized the wizard was an illusion, they found that the solution to their problems was within each of them. You just have to look within, and we can solve every single problem. You don't need to look outside. I can't solve it for you. I can give you a key to the lock. I can give you the tools, which I do with the book, but you've got to do the work yourself. I can't do it for you. So that's,
Absolutely. And
and
you
that's where I
you gave
spent the bulk of my research. Sorry.
no, you gave a really poignant quote earlier, which made me think of
Mhm.
another quote that has made an impact on my life. And that quote is, "Nothing changes if nothing changes," right? So, folks, if you want something to change, if you want to make a change, if you don't like where you're at, it's up to you to do it. And I think Bill has
Yeah.
created a beautiful tool here, again,
Mhm.
in his book, this labor of love, Awakening the Genie Within, a journey of self-discovery to fulfillment, human purpose, and potential. Now, Bill, we know,
Yeah.
I had your website up earlier. Here it is again.
Mhm.
So
Right.
do people buy your book on your website? Do they get it? Like,
They
where's the
can buy
best
it.
place?
Well, they can buy it on Amazon. They can buy it through Friesen Press. I think Barnes and Noble. There's a number of sources. For the first week
Okay.
with Friesen, it was one of their top sellers, and I've had some incredible reviews on my book from fairly influential people. So I'm encouraged, but I know
Congratulations.
I've got to do a lot of work, Stephanie. Books don't sell on their own; they need to be showcased, promoted, and I don't make much on the sale of one book. In fact, any author will know can tell you that. But it is a labor of love, and I really truly want to help people. And I've even looked at
And
ways where people that can't afford it, I can get them something for nothing. And the book is available
mm,
hardcover, softcover, electronic. And I have a really good friend right now who's going to turn it into an audiobook for me as well.
oh,
So,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. So you're not going to voice it yourself? Somebody else will voice it for you?
No, my friend is an ex radio
Or
announcer. And if you look at, there's a lot of work in doing an audiobook. You've got to read the whole book and
Mhm.
mark it. It's tremendous amount of work. And he's
Yep,
offered to do it
I
for
have
me.
a friend. Oh, that's amazing. I have a friend.
Yeah.
She was a co-author in the last Pursuit 365 book, and she's just finished the recording of her audiobook. But hers
Wow.
too is a very personal story, so she felt it very important to lend her voice to it. But yeah, there's hours and hours in the studio. So Wow. I think, though, Bill, that is a testimony in and of itself, right? That somebody believes enough in what you've produced here, right? That
Mhm.
they want to help you get that message out there. So kudos to
Yeah.
you. I think that is pretty incredible.
I've got another lady, Marilyn King, who's a twice a U.S. Olympic pentathlete, who loves my book, and she's connected with Olympic athletes all over the world. And she told me she wants to use her bully pulpit to help me promote my book, because she's a Fortune 500 speaker and a famous lady herself. But to have her backing and
That's,
support is amazing. Yeah. So
that
I'm
is.
encouraged.
Congratulations.
I'm really encouraged, and I really like Shelley Lynn. I met a few months ago, and I was super impressed with her. Um, she's such a creative and compassionate, caring person, and she truly wants to make a difference in the world, and that's why she created Pursuit 365. And I just applaud her for that. And I'm glad she's
Yeah.
accepting men now, not just women. she's she's
Yep.
expand
She's
she's
open to
expanded.
everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
To
So
everybody. Yeah.
yeah, so I think it's great to have this opportunity. Now, what happens to these interviews, Stephanie? Do they get posted somewhere,
Oh,
or?
yeah. So you and I will actually talk about that off screen after
Okay.
we finish
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're basically wrapping up. So folks, we've had a great little glimmer into the mind and the heart of Bill Carpenter. So I highly recommend you visit his website. He does have great information there. I was on his website doing some research before our chat today. You can go to Amazon.com to pick up a copy of his book. And as he mentioned, there are a lot of tools on his website that help you work through the book. So it's not
Right.
just a simple read.
Yeah.
It's a workbook. It's one that you're meant to dive in and roll your sleeves up and learn about yourself and learn about interaction with others and all that sort of thing.
Just a quick comment, Stephanie. If someone were to take a course to do this, it would be very expensive. I didn't want the price to keep people out of it. So everything they need to do the work is in the book and on my website. So if they can't afford to take an expensive course, they can do it themselves. And that was what I wanted to do. I want to reach everybody. And
Amazing. Well,
the
I
audio
think
book,
you've come to the right place.
I believe so too.
Right?
That's why I joined. Yeah. That's why I
Yes.
joined.
Well,
I was super impressed with the organization, and I
and
read.
I think Shelley's vision, I think, really shows you too that when you stay true to you, that you will find your people, and the people meant to receive your message will find you. And I think this community will definitely help lift you up and spread the word. And we look forward to watching your book book sales soar. That's for sure, Bill. Any last words before we wrap up here, Bill?
No, I just wanted to say Stephanie is a very genuine person, and I'm pretty perceptive of people, and I resonated with her right away. And I probably joined the organization more because of her than reading about it. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And I'm belonging to many similar organizations to promote my book, like the Visioneers, which is an international organization to bring about world peace. And I'm trying to connect with more organizations like that. And
Amazing.
I think I've seen people who have contemplated suicide because of their poor perception of themselves, which is their programming. And this book is really helpful to people like that, because they realize that there's two yous. When you say I love myself, there's two. There's the real you and the programmed you, the ego. So it's the ego that you don't like, but the ego is an illusion. It's not who you really are. It's a mask you're wearing. The real you is underneath that mask, and that's all you've got to do is take the mask off. So
there we go. We're going to leave it right there. I think that was a mic drop moment, Bill.
Okay.
That wraps things up beautifully. That's all the more reason, folks, to definitely grab up your copy of Awakening the Genie Within by Bill Carpenter. Thank you again, Bill, for your time, for your insight, for pouring your heart onto these pages. And of course, thank you to Shelley Lynn and to Leanne for the amazing opportunity for Bill and I to be here today on this Talk Wednesday. So folks, until next week, we bid you adieu, and we'll see you on the next Talk Wednesday.